I work at Little Caesars. Somebody ordered this today. By SocialNothing. It was just another day. I was working my afternoon shift at Little Caesars. Business was pretty good today. Our newest deep dish pizza was selling great. But today, a customer came in wearing a black ski mask. He walked right in and handed me this note. It said, "Can I get?" It skipped a line and said, "Can I get pizza, bread sticks, chicken fingers, Oreos, Diet Coke?" It was jarbled. I blinked at the note in confusion. The guy just stared at me through the mask's eye holes. I said, "I'm sorry, sir. We don't sell Oreos here, or chicken fingers, for that matter. Would you just like the pizza and the breadsticks? There's also a 2-liter of Diet Coke in the fridge." And that's when he started to screech. It was almost inhuman, like his mouth was stretching way farther than was humanly possible. The screech made me cover my ears. It was literally like a re on those 4chan boards. The other customers covered their ears and looked over in shock. My boss came running out from the back to see what was going on. He saw the man screaming bloody murder, and then looked at me in bewildered confusion. I began to say I didn't know what was going on when I felt a cold hand grab my shoulder and jerk me around. What I saw will haunt me forever. The man took his gloved hand off my shoulder and lifted up his mask. His face was burned and disfigured. It looked like a cheese pizza. His teeth were black, and there was some kind of ooze beginning to drip out of his mouth. His cheeks were scarred and ripped where his mouth had been stretched open, and his eyes were tearing up with blue slime. I started to scream, but he forced his hand in my mouth and grabbed my lower jaw, pulling it down. It hurt so bad it felt like he was trying to tear it off. The other customers ran out of the building. I heard my boss talking on the phone, giving the address of the restaurant. He must have been calling the police. The man heard this too, and he walked around the corner, dragging me along by my jaw. My boss was petrified with fear, and he dropped the phone as the man walked towards him. I had to sit there, horrified as he took a huge bite from my boss's throat. The man dropped my boss's gurgling body, and he dragged me towards the stove, with a now burned extramost bestest sitting upon it. The man grabbed a red-hot spatula that had been left on the stove when the cooks ran out, and he let go of my jaw. He grabbed my arm and jerked it up to his face, where a black, oozing tongue creeped out and licked my fingers, leaving black slime all over them. He then smiled and said to me the only words I'd ever hear from him. A low, growling, "Fingers." I screamed as he brought my hand to the stove, and he pressed my hand down to the hot surface with the spatula. I could feel my skin melting and my flesh cooking. He started to salivate, watching my hand get roasted like a steak. As I started to black out, he reached over and picked up a pizza cutter and sliced into the knuckle of my pointer finger. Tears were streaming down my face. I had run out of voice to scream. He rolled it back and forth until it was separated, and then he set it aside. He did this for 4 of my fingers, but he left my thumb on. When he cut off my pinky, he finally let go, and he let me fall to the ground. I sat there for a few seconds as he grinned wildly and put my now cooked fingers in a takeout box with a pre-made pepperoni pizza complete with a bag of garlic breadsticks. The last thing I remember before I passed out was the jingle of the door opening as he grabbed a 2-liter Diet Coke from the fridge and left. I woke up in the hospital later. The doctors were talking to the police, listing off my injuries so that they could carry out their investigation. I looked down at my hand and saw bandages wrapped tightly around a now stub of a palm, save for my bandaged thumb. I looked at the police officer, who was now looking at me. Through a rough, screamed-out voice, I managed to groan. "What happened?" The police officer sighed and took a step to my side. "We couldn't find the perp, or your fingers. Based on the skin stuck to the stove, though, they probably couldn't have been reattached anyway." I laid back and tears began to roll down my cheeks. The cop noticed and put a hand on my shoulder. "Hey, you should hear what he did to a guy at a grocery store for a pack of Oreos."